notwithstanding their differences, each of them expressed the highest regard for the other. And in fact, in his first reply to Annihilation of Caste, Gandhiji was so swept away with praising Dr. Ambedkar that it wasn't really till his second set of objections that he started taking on the substance of it. But what is perhaps less known, but I think deserves to be much more highlighted in these days, is the differences there were between them on the question of the villages of India and the system of governance that was most appropriate for the villages of India. And their perspectives on these two matters was so clashing that right to the end of Gandhiji's life, there wasn't a resolution made. And I had the privilege of working 40 years later with Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi on preparing a new system of governance for our villages through the Panchayat Raj system. And I saw there a major attempt made to reconcile the Gandhian view with the Ambedkarian objections to produce the longest and most detailed amendments to the Constitution, which succeeded in retaining the basic spirit of Dr. Ambedkar's Constitution. And this miraculous philosophical and legal effort is what I want to concentrate my remarks on today. But first, of course, we have to know what Gandhiji stood for. Now, if I start explaining why Gandhiji regarded the villages of India as the most important segment of our political geography, and why he thought that it is only through the empowerment of the villages that we could see national development take place on an inclusive basis, I would run out of time before I got to Ambedkar. So presuming that all of you are fully aware of Gandhiji's commitment to the villages of India and the progress of India through its villages, let me move straight to Dr. Ambedkar's objections to the kind of village governance system that Mahatma Gandhi had in mind. The first opportunity that Dr. Ambedkar got to present his objections to the romanticizing of villages and village life and to allowing villages to become self-governing units was when the Bombay Village Panchayat Bill was discussed in the 1930s with the arrival of the first PG independent Indian government in what was then called Bombay. And on that occasion, Dr. Ambedkar said, if India has not succeeded in producing nationalism, if India has not succeeded in building up a national spirit, the chief reason for that, in my opinion, is the existence of the village system. He said this village system made all people saturated with local particularism, with local patriotism. It left no room for a larger civic spirit, none whatever. Under the ancient village panchayats, India, instead of being a country of a united people, became a loose conglomeration of village communities with no common ties. This was the damning indictment of villages and village life. And in the same speech, he went on to say, speaking for the depressed classes, therefore, I can never accept the principle of self-government for India unless I am satisfied that every self-governing institution has provisions in it which give these depressed classes special representation in order to protect their rights. So the basic point he was making was that within a constitutional or legal framework, it was essential to give special representation to the specially depressed people before it could become acceptable as a document of justice. And we'll see in a minute how Rajiv Gandhi attempted to answer that question. But then the next opportunity for Dr. Ambedkar to weigh in against village self-governance and the village system in India was when the cabinet mission came to India in 1946. And on the 5th of April 1946, Dr. Ambedkar, on behalf of the depressed classes, presented a memorandum to the cabinet mission, which at one level makes for profound analysis, and at another level makes one's hair rise on end. But this is what he said. He said the existing village system has the effect of making the scheduled caste in the village slaves of the caste Hindus. I don't think anyone can dispute that. Under the village system, the scheduled castes are not allowed to live inside the village. They have to live on the outskirts. They have no independent means of livelihood. They own no land. They have to do forced labor day in and day out on the pain of being driven away from their quarters by the Hindu landlords. They have to live a life of degradation, dishonor, and ignominy from generation to generation. It is a state of eternal perdition. This was his analysis, and I don't think anyone can doubt that it was at least as right as Mahatma Gandhi's completely alternative and opposite conception of the role of villages in village life in modern India. But from this analysis that Dr. Ambedkar had made of conditions in our villages, he went on to a prescription that might surprise all of us when we listen to what that prescription was 61 years later. He said the Constitution should provide for the transfer of the scheduled castes from their present habitations to form separate scheduled caste villages away from and independent of Hindu villages. And to this end, he argued in his memorandum that a settlement commission should be established to arrange for these exclusively Dalit settlements, that cultivable government land should be placed at the disposal of the settlement commission for distribution to resettled Dalits, that the commission be authorized to purchase new land for purposes of Dalit settlement, and that a minimum amount be prescribed in the Constitution for the settlement to accomplish its purposes. And I think in 2017, we will be amused to recall the figure that Dr. Ambedkar prescribed in his memorandum for the Settlement Commission. He asked for all of 5 crore rupees, which I think is perhaps less than the expenditure of this country. But that's the way in which what Dr. Mangekar described as the new liberal model has fueled inflation in India to the point where 5 crore rupees looks like pocket money. Anyhow, this was the suggestion. Some might say it amounted to the creation of Bantustan. But he needed to put his point of view with firmness and determination before the cabinet mission, and he was still hoping that the cabinet mission would make provision for a separate electorate, or at least special separate propositions for New India, which was due to come in determined by destiny about 16, 17 months later. He then moved from that position after he had been made the chairman of the drafting committee. He was initially a member of the drafting committee, subsequently he became a drafting committee member, And just for the edification of the Congress people in this audience, let me mention just on the side, it has nothing to do with my main speech, that if you go into the Central Hall of Parliament, you'll find that there's a plaque which gives the date when the Constituent Assembly of India first met. That was the 9th of December, 1946. And it is on the 9th of December, 1946, that in faraway Italy, Sonia Gandhi was born. So her life is intimately tied with the evolution of the modern Indian Republic. Anyway, having started the work of the drafting committee, Dr. Ambedkar then presented a memorandum to the Constituent Assembly on the 5th of March 1947, in which he put to one side the considerations he had placed before the Cabinet Mission and instead said the following: the principles for determining the quantum of representation and the method of election for municipalities and local boards shall be the same as adopted for the union and state legislature. In other words, he was saying that even as you have reservations for the scheduled caste, and incidentally the scheduled tribes as well, in elections to the Union Parliament and the state assemblies, similarly, he was hinting that there should be a similar kind of process of reservations for scheduled castes in municipalities and local boards. You'll note that he was still avoiding the use of the word village panchayats, because the last thing he wanted to see was village panchayat. Then interestingly, this was the way in which I think we succeeded in uniting India, Mahatma Gandhi didn't suggest. He ordered Jawaharlal Nehru to ensure that Dr. Ambedkar, who had been opposing him ideologically all through the freedom movement, should be put in charge of preparing the Constitution, not only because he was a great legal mind, but also because, as the representative of what was then called the depressed class or the scheduled caste, he would be able to introduce into this Constitution those provisions of social justice which would enable the scheduled caste to not feel outside Indian society, but as part and parcel of that society. Nevertheless, Ambedkar held his ground, and by December 1947, when the work of the drafting committee on the Constitution was moving forward, Gandhiji heard that he was not going to put any mention of the panchayats into the Constitution. And Gandhi, of course, was extremely upset at this. And probably one of his last official statements, he said that he could not conceive of an independent Republican India in which there was not village self-government through a process that had traditionally in India been known as Panchayat Raj, and that he personally wanted the whole of Indian democracy to be constructed on the basis of independent village republics that would be independent for their essential wants and dependent on other village communities wherever it was necessary for wants to be complementary. But Dr. Ambedkar was not moved. And when his first draft of the Constitution was circulated on the 10th of May 1948, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who regarded himself as something of the inheritor of the Gandhian philosophy and was the president of the Constituent Assembly, he wasn't yet the president of India, he wrote an astonished letter to Dr. Ambedkar saying Mahatma Gandhi wanted Panchayati Raj as the entire basis of our Constitution, and you produced a draft which does not even include the two words Panchayati Raj. And Dr. Ambedkar decided not to respond to the President of the Constituent Assembly. And instead his secretary, months later, in September 1948, wrote a reply to Dr. Ambedkar in which he said, we've circulated the Constitution, we can't make any changes now, it's up to the Constituent Assembly to move its amendments. And that is how, by what I regard as one of the more extraordinary coincidences of destiny, the man who was scheduled to stand from my constituency in the 1952 election was the one who moved the amendment that resulted in Article 40 in the Directive Principles of State Policy, where he conceded, Dr. Ambedkar, that the following words: the state shall take steps to organize village panchayats and endow them with such powers and authority as may be necessary to enable them to function as units of self-government. So that's how the compromise came, and there was a reference to this. With the whole system of Panchayat Raj being placed in the state list, except quite without realizing it, they included economic and social planning in the concurrent list. So when Rajiv Gandhi eventually brought in his system of Panchayat Raj, he made economic and social planning the most important function of the village panchayat, and therefore gave an opening which, alas, has not been used for the centre to interfere in the Panchayat Raj system, to allow the Panchayat to become a principal organ of social and economic planning. But before he accepted these few words in Article 40, in a famous speech dated the 4th of November 1948, Ambedkar famously, or notoriously, depending on your point of view, retorted that India's villages are the ruination of India, he said. They are nothing but a sink of localism, a den of ignorance and communalism. So he never resigned from his position that we have to get out of the village, or at least separate the Harijan, the Dalit communities from the villages, if we are going to have any kind of social cohesion or social justice in the country. And this was the dilemma with which Jawaharlal Nehru, later on Indira Gandhi, were faced, especially Jawaharlal Nehru, when he brought in a system of Panchayati Raj after the Balwant Mehta report in 1957. But in the 1957 elections, the Congress had won every state. It comes as a bit of a surprise to present congressmen who are losing in every state, but there was a day when you win in every state. And when we won in every state except Kerala. The Kerala government got dismissed quickly enough. And by the time in 1959, Nehru launched Panchayati Raj, the whole country came under a Panchayat Raj system. But equally it disappeared the moment Nehru died. And therefore when Rajiv Gandhi became the Prime Minister of India, a good 40 years or so after the initial debate between Gandhiji and Dr. Ambedkar had been brought to some kind of resolution in Article 40 of the Constitution, Rajiv had to find a system that would meet the objections of Dr. Ambedkar. I think he realized very clearly that you could not have a Gandhian system of Panchayati Raj unless it was a composite of Ambedkar's objections being responded to and Gandhi's vision being realized. And that is why I think it's particularly important to note that the amendments that were moved, what eventually became the 73rd and 74th amendments, are the longest and most detailed amendments ever made to the Constitution. And one of the most important characteristics of this was that Rajiv said we must ensure that there is genuine representation as also genuine proportional representation of the Dalit community, the scheduled caste, in institutions of self-governance in the lower echelons of our government. So it was said that in every village it will be determined what is the share of the SC community. And if that share is 10%, they'll have 10% reservation. If it's 20%, it will be 20% reservation. If it's 50%, it will be 50% reservation. And if it's 75%, it will be 75%. So the sense of actually belonging to the system would be enhanced for the depressed communities by making their share in each level of the Panchayat, the village level, the intermediate level, and the district level, or as equal as possible to their proportion in the population of the village, the district, and the intermediates. Of course, the net result of this is that eventually the proportion of those elected would equal the proportion of the scheduled caste in the state and in the country as a whole. So it's very easy to calculate what is scheduled caste representation by taking the figure of 22% and then calculating it from the total figure. So we have the interesting proposition that answers in a way Dr. Ambedkar's major concern, that despite the fact that they are in a minority demographically and in a seriously disadvantaged position economically and socially, the Dalits can be absolutely assured that in the Panchayat system, their position will be proportional as far as possible to their share of the population. Now that's answering a major problem that was bothering all of the country throughout the last 100 years of the freedom movement. When they said a democratic Westminster model will definitely result in the Muslims being a perpetual minority, in the scheduled caste being not only a perpetual minority but a perpetually oppressed minority. And if the first answer in that lies in Dr. Ambedkar's view that you must have a constitutional solution to every problem, it was Rajiv Gandhi who was more radical than Dr. Ambedkar